You'll even find out what kind of music they would want to hear if they were stranded on a Pacific island. Join me for some interesting and entertaining musical insights of some of your favorite local musicians.
KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, here to meet your urgent and emergent medical needs, whether they are COVID-19 related or not. Medical emergencies happen when you least expect them, whether it's a stroke, heart attack, illness, or injury. San Juan Regional Medical Center's caregivers are here to provide care to you and your loved ones. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. "11 minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Wednesday morning, October 28th. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin. Thanks for tuning in to KSJE Radio, 90.9 FM over the air, of course, in San Juan County, 103.3 FM over the air, of course, in Durango, Colorado, and streaming everywhere at KSJE.com. Also, welcome to our viewers who are watching our visual radio program. We're streaming the video live this morning to the KSJE YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and the KSJE Twitter account. We are glad that you are with us, everybody. Coming up in the next few moments, my guest this morning from Farmington Municipal Schools, Superintendent Dr. Eugene Schmidt, will be joining me today. Also joining us is the school district's Teacher of the Year. Suzanne Holman will be on the program as well this morning, so a great show coming up. We hope you'll stay with us and stay tuned right here on KSJE. Then later on, of course, at 8:50 a.m., I'll be joined by Dr. Mike Hadabaugh from the Encouragement Lab. Dr. Hadabaugh is going to be continuing our conversation on fair fighting. That seems very timely these days. That's coming up this morning, 8:50 a.m. You can listen or watch right here on KSJE. 9 o'clock, it is Roving with the Arts. Mick Hess is going to be here after the news at 9:06 with our classical music program. And of course, it is Wednesday. Every other Wednesday, Mick is featuring a local favorite. And this week, what a favorite he is. Hoyle Osborne will be featured on Roving with the Arts. You'll hear from him. He and Mick had a great conversation, so that's coming up today at 9:06 on KSJE, a special 90-minute version of Roving with the Arts. And that takes us to Right on Four Corners at 10:30, our local and regional author program. Tracy Hales-Vass is speaking with two authors today, Pam Houston and Amy Irvine. They are the authors of the book Airmail, Letters of Politics, Pandemic, and Place. A very timely interview as well. And that's coming up today at 10:30 a.m. on Right on Four Corners right here on KSJE. So stay tuned for that, everybody. Don't forget, of course, in addition to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can also check us out on Instagram as well. And let's talk about the weather for just a moment. Things are warming up. It is 25 degrees outside right now, but it's looking like a mostly sunny day eventually today. These clouds will become mostly sunny with a high of 48 in Farmington, 24 overnight. Warmer still tomorrow with a high of 56 on Thursday, 58 degrees on Friday, and lower 60s for Saturday and Sunday with lots of sunshine, and maybe into the mid to upper 60s by the middle of next week after a very, very chilly spat of weather here the last couple of days. Overnight lows again from right around 30 degrees, upper 20s to lower 30s by next week as well. And of course, we always tell you that visual radio can take you places. Why don't we take you over to Wolf Creek, Colorado once again? That is the first ski area in the state that is going to be partially reopening today. As a matter of fact, the lifts, as you can maybe see in the distance there, are running as the ski area begins to open, maybe about 45 minutes from now. Current temperature, if you're interested at Wolf Creek, is right now 14 degrees. They are on their way to a high today of 34 with a mostly sunny day in store at Wolf Creek, Colorado. Municipal Schools, Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Eugene Schmidt is here with us this morning. Dr. Schmidt, good morning.
Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Four Corners.
Good to have you with us. Also joining us, our special guest today, Suzanne Holman, who is the Farmington Municipal Schools 2021 Teacher of the Year. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Dr. Schmidt.
Good to have
Good
you with
morning.
us. And congratulations once again. And so we will get started. Dr. Schmidt, let's talk a little bit about Ms. Holman and her new title as Teacher of the Year for the district.
Yes, and it's really more than that, because not only does she exemplify the pride of our school district, she is one of the 4 finalists for the state of New Mexico, and I'll let Ms. Holman talk about that. But do you know, from the 5.5 years that we've had a chance to work together, I've grown to greatly admire the quality of instruction. I think her commitment to excellence in learning a foreign language, which is something that I have always envied. So, Ms. Holman, I welcome you to just give a bit of your background, and then we'll talk a little bit about how the process of naming you as our district and then being a state finalist came about.
Very good.
Okay, well, as I started my brief bio for the application for State Teacher of the Year, I look back to my year as an exchange student in New Zealand when I was 16 as really sparking an interest in global issues and really an awareness of how the United States fits in with various systems, including education. I went through their university entrance program and really learned how to study that year as we faced our
Well, let me turn to my guests who are joining us via Zoom this morning from Farmington Municipal Schools. Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Eugene Schmidt is here with us this morning. Dr. Schmidt, good morning.
Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Four Corners.
Good to have you with us. Also joining us, our special guest today, Suzanne Holman, who is the Farmington Municipal Schools 2021 Teacher of the Year. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Dr. Schmidt.
Good to have you
Good
with
morning.
us. And congratulations once again. And so we will get started. Dr. Schmidt, let's talk a little bit about Ms. Holman and her new title as Teacher of the Year for the district.
Yes, and it's really more than that, because not only does she exemplify the pride of our school district, she is one of the 4 finalists for the state of New Mexico, and I'll let Ms. Holman talk about that. But do you know, from the 5.5 years that we've had a chance to work together, I've grown to greatly admire the quality of instruction. I think her commitment to excellence in learning a foreign language, which is something that I have always envied. So, Ms. Holman, I welcome you to just give a bit of your background, and then we'll talk a little bit about how the process of naming you as our district and then being a state finalist came about.
Very good.
Okay, well, as I started my brief bio for the application for State Teacher of the Year, I look back to my year as an exchange student in New Zealand when I was 16 as really sparking an interest in global issues and really an awareness of how the United States fits in with various systems, including education. I went through their university entrance program and really learned how to study that year as we faced our really challenging exams.
Interesting.
And I passed.
Right.
So yeah, that year was harder than my first year of college. But yeah, just I discovered my vocation at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and that was teaching. I got a degree in English education in 1987. And then later, I went back for a master's, did the coursework in the summer at UW-Madison. It is the #1 curriculum and instruction school in the country over all that time, and received my master's in world language education with an emphasis in French in 2007.
Very good. And certainly your students and former students who are watching us this morning will certainly know you as their French teacher. You've been a French teacher at Farmington High School for how long now?
This is my 24th year. But what's kind of interesting when I looked at the Facebook responses, what brought me to New Mexico was working at the BIA school down at Fort Wingate. And I was an English teacher then and came on to Farmington as an English teacher. And those kids were absolutely amazing. Working with Native American students was life-changing.
I imagine.
So that has made my background much richer.
No kidding. I imagine for you and many other teachers who are drawn to this area and perform that service on the reservation at some of those schools. Dr. Schmidt mentioned certainly then the next level, you are the Teacher of the Year for Farmington schools, but you also then advanced to kind of the state level and were a finalist there. Can you talk to us a little bit about that process?
Yes, I think what took me the longest was responding to the 5 questions, which I actually call essays because we were supposed to write 500 words on each topic. Topics like, describe a lesson that you feel exemplifies your teaching philosophy and approach to teaching. And what are some of the problems in education today, or what problem would you focus on? What else? Anyway, the challenge of writing those essays took me a long time.
Right.
I think
interesting. And Dr. Schmidt sent me some photos of you on another Zoom call. You had an interview with the Public Education Department Secretary, Ryan Stewart, with all this, right? Yes. And
this year's Teacher of the Year, Mandy Torres.
I see. And so what were some of the things they were asking you? Some of the things about your essay then?
Some of the areas overlapped. Issues of advocacy, representing underrepresented populations, how comfortable I felt on social media.
Right.
That might have been the clincher for. I wasn't selected as Teacher of the Year, is what I'm saying, for the state. They're really interested in communications in the modern era, and I'm kind of been limited to Facebook.
Understood.
So, yeah.
Well, but after a year of Zoom meetings, you're going to be all set for 2022. Is what I would say.
I hope.
Right. But still a great honor, and congratulations, because, again, I think it shows, and your students would tell us, and we could see from your experience here in Farmington schools, I'm sure Dr. Schmidt will chime in here as well about some of the things, as he mentioned, that he's impressed with, of seeing you in the classroom and hearing from your students to get to the Teacher of the Year level.
Yes, and thank you for that, Scott, because Ms. Holman's really been quite humble. She has not shared the parade of students she annually brings before the board who are either state or national champions in language. And so, Ms. Holman, you might just want to take a moment. It really is a parade of kids that we've seen over these last several years.
Right. Each year our students take the National French exam. And we do have state winners each year and sometimes national winners. And so I've been very fortunate in being allowed to do this exam funded by foundation money. And so the support of the school and the support of the district are critical in any teacher's success. And so I'm definitely cognizant of that fact as well, Dr. Schmidt. So I thank you. I thank you for all the support of the board, which keeps helping perpetuate the program as they are congratulated and given medals and little prizes along the way.
Very good. And that foundation that you mentioned, I'm assuming, is the Foundation for Educational Excellence in Farmington schools that gives out some of these grants to local teachers, correct?
Yes.
Very good.
And so, Scott, let me just jump in with one more thought, not knowing our time for this first segment, but
sure.
But also an important part of this story is something called a bilingual seal. And perhaps Ms. Holman can explain that our students leave with something when they
Yes, definitely. We have for the past, 4 or 5 years, had the opportunity to earn the bilingual seal of biliteracy or bilingualism, as the case may be. And that refers to all of our language students, including Spanish and Navajo and French at Farmington High School. And so students can prove their language proficiency by either taking a test. So our Spanish students are usually able to take the AP Spanish language test as juniors. My French students have to take it when they're seniors because they only have 4 years of French. So that's why we do an additional test called the APPLE, which is through the American Council of the Teachers of Foreign Language, to give them the opportunity to show their language proficiency using all 4 skills in language.
Okay.
Reading, writing, speaking, and
Very good.
and listening.
Well, it's a great honor again. And before we go, Suzanne Holman, I would like you maybe to put a plug in for the benefits of learning a second language, or maybe even a third language, when it comes to education for students that you deal with, or even maybe their parents.
Most definitely, Scott, and I will just use the experiences of some as the launch pad for that. I've taken 9 groups of students to France, and many of those students have gone on to major or minor in French in college at UW or NMSU, and they have spent more time overseas. There are multiple companies in America that have offices in France and French-speaking countries and Spanish-speaking countries. And so it really is a practical skill. And beyond that, learning to read the world and learning our place in the world is so important.
Right. We sometimes think that everyone speaks English, and that's certainly not the case. If you do any sort of traveling at all, you learn just how quickly some of our language skills are deficient. So it's important to remember all that. Very good. Well, Suzanne Holman, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Congratulations once again.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Schmidt.
Very
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
Thank you. And Dr. Schmidt, thank you for bringing Ms. Holman onto the program this morning. It's, again, a great honor to, again, for Farmington Schools as well, to have one of your teachers going to the finals for the State Teacher of the Year competition, I suppose, right?
Yes, and if I can add, the selection process was really quite a lovely experience. And while I don't get to sit in on that, I do know that nominations for teachers come in from schools all across the district, and a committee comprised of all of our past winners read the stories and the nominations. And from that grouping, Ms. Holman's name was selected. So I think that there's no greater honor, Scott, than when your own honor you. And so, Ms. Holman, know that our teachers chose you for the work that you are doing. And interestingly, Scott, this is the 2nd year in a row that a Farmington teacher has made the Final Four. Nancy Brummel from Apache a year ago was also a finalist. And so it speaks well when it gets down to that final 3 or 4 in the state that eyes keep turning to Farmington for what's going on up there. And I found it equally enjoyable, Ms. Holman, when I had the chance. I was invited to be a observer during the interview process. And I will say that you represented our district well, very well. And when I think whomever is chosen, somehow conveyed a better story than you, I find that pretty amazing, because you represented the district well, you spoke with confidence, you told a story that I thought was very compelling. So thank you for that, and continued good work as your life journey continues.
Thank you, Dr. Schmidt.
Very nice.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. My pleasure. It's great to have you on the program and to share this great celebration with our viewers and listeners this morning. So Thank you very much. And Dr. Schmidt, quite frankly, I'm not surprised because, again, we talk here almost every month about some of the accolades and successes of Farmington schools, and not just from your staff, but your students, too, and how they are excelling even during this strange year of 2020. And that, I guess, brings us to our next topic, which is the return for some of your students to face-to-face instruction at Farmington schools. And I know we had you on our special COVID-19 program to give us a bit of an update, but maybe you can tell us a bit more of how things are going as K through fifth graders come back to school.
Yes, so I appreciate that, and I really appreciate the segue that, we celebrate our successes. One of our great successes, Scott, is getting kids back into school.
Right.
Our community would know that it was on the third attempt, the third proposal that we sent to the public education department, and even that was followed with an hour of FaceTime with Secretary Stewart, Deputy Secretary Warnement. And I know that behind the scenes, Dr. Grace probably was listening, but we really advocated to get our kids back in school. And as I talk about that celebration, I really want to celebrate the work of the school district, what we call Safety Return to Learn committee that is led by my Deputy Superintendent, Phil Valdez, and a whole stream of others who just really tried to research the story about what we can do to get kids back in school. So with that, I'm pleased to share that we are 2 weeks into in-person learning, and it's done through a variety of models. Again, virtual learning continues as we do every Monday for all kids, but we have over 2,200 kids back in school, in-person learning at pre-K through 5. And good for all you parents and teachers and school leaders of all of our elementaries and our preschools for doing what's right for kids, and that's providing a choice of virtual or in-person. And so, Scott, it's with curiosity that we have two different models, and we have one that's called an AABB, where it's a hybrid that kids go to school. A group of school students, the A kids, go on a Tuesday, Wednesday, then the B kids, or groupings, cohorts, go on Thursday, Friday. But we also have at least 1,500 kids across the district that, because of the 50% rule, are able to attend 4 days a week. I know that I've talked to a number of parents, and they understand that if your child is in an A-B model, the 2 day a week, it is because so many kids in that school wanted to come back that to meet the condition of the governor, you can only bring back 50%. We had to mix and match different groupings of kids. And so it may be that the K2 go 4 days a week and grades 3, 4, 5 go 2 days a week. So different schools have different models.
Right.
But what we're really, really pleased with is the parents are really trying to help. And I say that because always in the background is something called COVID. And so, part of the parent partnership to get kids to school is that we got to make sure that we follow social, medical good practices. So kids are streaming to school with their face masks on and with the confidence that the parents have done temperature checks before they send them out the door. It really is a credit to the Farmington families that they have worked so hard to keep an infestation of COVID out of our schools.
Certainly, and that is certainly all part of the plan. I would think that you presented to the State Public Education Department, Dr. Schmidt, about allowing your schools to reopen in that 50% capacity?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few, and it's a toolkit that if you're ever interested, people could actually look online. But the toolkit really is a set of conditions. For example, we will comply to everybody wears face masks, everybody does temperature checks, if there's one of 8 or more signs that maybe you're sniffling, you're coughing, you're just not feeling well, you're fatigued or something, we may well ask you to be sent home. And so there's a medical side, but there's also the school responsibility side that, we do the constant deep cleaning, whether you ride on a school bus or you're in-person learning. There's a lot of cleanliness that goes on. There's a lot of care and safety, even down to how do you get your water? How do you get down to the cafeteria and back to share your lunch? And so there's a whole logistical side. There's a family side. And importantly, there's the education side. And that's probably the thing that I am most fascinated with is our teachers continue to get better at their craft. And by that, Scott, we're saying that literally some teachers are experimenting with my in-person class is working simultaneously with my at-home class. And so really, teachers, it's a constant state of reinvention every day as we try new techniques that will give kids the chance to learn from home at a pace equal to or greater than the kids that are learning from school. So just a lot of things to be proud of, a lot of things to celebrate in how we reinvent school.
Sure. And I would imagine these days, Dr. Schmidt, you're starting to get some data about how your students are doing as the first quarter has wrapped up of the school year and the second quarter is underway. I assume there's some assessments that are being done at this point in time?
Yes, and I'm really pleased that everyone, not only Farmington, New Mexico, but really probably the nation, the world, is concerned for lost learning loss. And so we have just finished the first quarter, and that enables us to have given that in the first quarter, we call them interim or short cycle tests. And what we're learning is the learning loss is not as great as we expected. And I can probably bring Nate Pierantoni on to a future show, maybe in December when we've gone through almost the end of the quarter. But our early indications are that it is a 0.04 negative. And so, people were thinking, oh man, we'll be a half a year or something behind. But right now, the early data doesn't show that. The data shows that we did have learning loss, but when it is a 0.04, based upon what was the average percent of kids from 2020 in terms to the one they took in 2019, there's marginal loss of learning. So again, that is for K-5.
Right.
The grades 6 through 12, we should be able to know in another month because their test is a little bit longer. But we are hopeful. We are hopeful that two things are happening. The learning loss wasn't maybe as great, but again, we have teachers like Ms. Holman and 700 and probably 42 others who are so committed to the quality of excellence that we're really focused on. We're going to catch them up, we're going to keep them up, and we're going to send them ahead. So a lot of really nice things are going on in the classroom that we think offer us hope that kids will continue to maintain progress towards graduation.
That's good to hear, Dr. Schmidt. And again, probably another kudos to your parents in the district and our guardians or whomever those adults are who are helping those children, those students to do those lessons, do that homework, and stay engaged with their classes.
Yes, and so I will give a shout out to parents because I've talked to any number of people who might spot me in my mask at a grocery store or at church or something, but what I find responsive in that parent at home partnership is the little study areas that they set up for their kids. That an important part of learning at home is to know that you have a place to learn. Right. Because there could be a lot of distraction in the home. And so any number of families that I've talked to have little tables with little maybe it's a cardboard that they've kind of encapsulated their kids so that they know that that's their little study corner. Many families have designated learning time. Even for the families, Scott, who maybe both parents work and that one of the children has to provide childcare for the others, come nighttime when the parents are back, then that child has a chance to do learning at a different time. And I also want to give a shout out to, we have a lot of kids that spend part of their day at daycare. For example, Bard Tedrow runs Gold Star, and I know that there's at least 5 other for-profit, daycare centers, but many of my early elementary kids that are in school also spend time at the daycares. And so that partnership is going really well from the standpoint of they also have designated study time with maybe a daycare provider acting as their tutor. We've collaborated with any number of schools on how to make sure daycares that we have access to internet. So it's not just families, it's the caregivers that are watching out for the kids that families aren't available. And it's just an encouraging thing that Farmington believes very strongly in education and where that will take you, but also that they're willing to commit to make sure it happens.
Very good. And I want to share with the audience a little bit of a list of things that you are dealing with now in schools as you open back up some of your schools for face-to-face learning. And there is this phone app that you are using as well. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that and how that is helping this process.
Yes, and I thank you for that question. It is important that every day we do a wellness check for our children, all of those 10,800 kids who, whether they be at home or at school learning. There is a phone app that's called Ruvna, R-U-V-N-A. It's a Ruvna. It's a phone app that it does a quick screen. We can't hardly get into a doctor's office or a dentist office or something without having gone through this little checklist. Well, that can be done on a phone, as well as the temperature checks. And so we have families do that every day. And as a sign that families are good partners, over 90% of our kids, Scott, are coming to school every day with that pre-screen. And as we look back this week, we had a little bit of snow and some cold weather. We welcome those kids just coming right into the building because their pre-screens have been done. So good for the parents, and I think the adaptability of getting a Ruvna app on their phone and then using it.
And I guess, so that speeds up the process then, Dr. Schmidt, of your students arriving at school. If they've already been pre-screened with this app, they can just kind of they've come in. Is that kind of the idea?
Yes, we have well over 2,200 kids for in-person, but we also have another 250 or more grades K-12 of our high-need special ed students. And so when a family has pre-screened and we can show proof of that, it just get kids from outdoors to indoors as quickly as we can. And then, when kids get to school in the morning, they can grab a quick grab-and-go breakfast and off to their class to learn. So just this simple courtesy by families helps just thousands of kids get right into the classroom and learning where we want them to be with that in-person learning taking place.
I see. Understood. And Dr. Schmidt, we're almost out of time this morning, but I do want to ask you about the next stage maybe in back-to-back learning, and that would be maybe for your middle and high school students. I know that's an ongoing conversation, and your folks are working on that in the district as well as at the state level? Yes,
and so there's a number of things going on. We always try to do as much or if not more than asked. And so even as we have our pre-K through 5 in school, we are looking at additional services, one of which is something called a HEPA filter. I think we could do a whole show on what a MERV 13 filter is, but we're also looking at putting additional filtration into classrooms that may not have access to outside air through windows or something. So when we think about middle school, we think about high school and what it might take to convince the state to let us bring the older siblings back. We are looking at different kinds of models, and I would say that the state seems to like the AB that helps to artificially limit student populations, and so we will be submitting a proposal to the state. And I would say, given the recent infestation or positivity rate increases, I don't see our kids coming back this first semester. So I think as we put the plan together, we are hopeful that maybe the COVID rate of positivity will begin to drop again, and the state, through some kind of AB partnership, will allow us to come back second semester.
Gotcha. So you're talking about maybe January.
Right now I'm hopeful for January, but a lot of things happen between now and then, and I appreciate you saying January, because somewhere there's Halloween, there's Thanksgiving, there's probably a Kwanzaa and a Christmas and a temptation for people to travel. And so that may well have an impact as well. If the positivity rate of San Juan County doesn't go down, it might be difficult, or the state might not let us open right after Christmas. And so that's a yet to be, but we are certainly hopeful, based upon a month and a half for which only 3 students have tested positive, 6 staff, and of those we don't know that they were work related or that they were brought to work, but
sure,
we are trying to be very careful, and with the community's help, I'm believing that we'll get our kids back as a K-12.
Great. Well, I know a lot of folks are looking forward to that, but of course, it's really the virus that's dictating some of these decisions, not the politicians in Santa Fe or even the folks there at Farmington Schools on 30th Street that can make these decisions. It really has to come from the virus, doesn't it?
Yeah, we can have the best of plans, but the COVID doesn't plan on the same page as we do.
Right.
And if we can just continue to do the things that, those simple things, wash your hands, wear a mask, limit your travel, limit the size of the groups, then that offers us hope.
Very good. Well, Dr. Schmidt, we are out of time, as always happens to us on these conversations, but I do appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to speak with me every month. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll look forward to next month.
All right. Yes, we will. Thank you very much. That is Dr. Eugene Schmidt, Superintendent of Schools of the Farmington School District. He is my guest here on KSJE. Back with more in just a moment, everyone.